We shine a light on something, not our product, not our service. We shine this light so we can start the conversation around something that's interesting to them. And we will ask questions. Questions have always been the salesperson's friend. And we'll use our open questions, closed questions, summary questions, probing questions, hypothetical questions, so many different ways in which we can ask questions. And listen. Shut up. Listen to what people say. Let them talk. You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. Let's think about building consistent success. And so the key to this for me is modern selling is about thinking like a partner. Yeah, now you don't have to be a formal partner. It doesn't have to be a full business alliance, but it's this mindset that if we think like a partner, this is more conducive to collaboration, more conducive to working alongside somebody with them to create the value and to generate the outcomes that they're looking for, and which will be beneficial to us as well. So in the book, Sales Through Partnering Skills, I introduced the value framework. So value is an acronym here that pulls together some thinking around how we can partner well. So using a concept called partnering skills, PQ, and then some of the things that are working well in sales today. That's what that does. And I'll take you through each of these steps and give you a couple of the highlights of each of them. First up then is all about getting the right targets. So that's V for validate. Yeah, right targets. There's a couple of things that we can think about when we do this. So one of them is profiling. Do we actually know what our ICP, the ideal customer profile is? The people that we should be spending more time talking to? Because that's going to help us assign our time, our activity to where we can actually have an impact. It can help us disqualify. It can help us say, look, no, that's not someone I should be talking to. I'm not going to waste my time with it. I'm over here talking with the kind of customers where I can make a difference because of how we're set up and what it is that we're actually doing. That starts to help us form a value proposition. So this is where we can start to communicate with the pains that we suspect they might have, the problems that will then lead into, the prize that they would be looking for, and just starting to package that and then use that in our messaging. Now, messaging could be directly to customers. It could be within our outreach, cold calls, emails, LinkedIn, whatever you're doing to directly outreach, but also in a broader message. So if you're using social media to generally stimulate and position yourself as someone that can help, it feeds into all of that. There's a lot of noise out there at the moment. Let's face it. People are being bombarded with information, left, right, center. And we need to cut through that. Now there's tricks and nudges and all these sort of things we can use. But the thing to come back to is relevance. People will respond to stuff that is relevant to them. That's where their ears prick up. That's why they look at you and think, well, yes, okay, yeah, get it. So things to ask yourself are you working with the right people? Now, that's probably the biggest question I will ask at this stage. And I'll just say, look, imagine every day you're getting up to work with people who want to work with you because together you create real impact. That's the sort of thing that we can do when we're getting good at validation. Now, I do quite a lot of work with Renault trucks, and this is something that we spend quite a lot of time looking at with the guys. Previously, they would be chasing anybody who's got a truck, anyone with an O license, they would be going after, say, okay, yeah, we can sell them stuff. But by looking and saying, actually, there's some customers are better for what you're selling, and you do a better job with them, let's spend time reaching out and selling to those, and we can be way more effective in what we're doing. And it really made quite a difference when we started focusing in, disqualifying some stuff, talking to the ones we really wanted to, and we could get the better conversations going. It meant that we could be more comfortable investing time and effort in the next phase, which is all about doing the right research. So this is about aligning with the customer, thinking about, do we really understand them, or what do we have to do to understand them better? So with looking at these bigger opportunities, it's a good idea to build an account plan. So account plans take all shapes and forms. One that I would encourage people to look at that has kind of minimum criteria in it, an objective. Have to have an objective. What is it you're trying to achieve? What are we aiming towards? That'll give us direction. We then need to look at the decision-making unit. So who are the people which will be involved in this decision? Who are the stakeholders? Probably more people than you think, because DMU's decision-making units are growing. I like SWOT analysis, so understanding strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, both from your point of view, but put yourself in the customer's shoes and do it from that as well. And then think about that. Who are your competition? So who will we be selling against? Is don't do anything, is status quo, also competition, and use that to start generating actions. So there's a basic account plan. Good way of thinking your way through what you're going to be doing. Change drivers will influence in this. These are things which will be changing what's going on in the customer's world. So it could be regulatory, it could be economic, it could be social, political, environmental, competitive, technological. These things are going on which are impacting them. Now, if we can work out, oh, that's an impact and that's something that's interesting to talk to them about, we can set ourselves apart in the conversations we start to have. And that starts then, to answer the question I had earlier, to move us towards customer value. Because the simple answer to that is they define it. It's like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. So we need to work with them to understand what that is, but we can start off giving them a hypothesis. We can start off saying, look, I've had to think about you, your business, your world, and these are some of the things we reckon's going on that we should be looking at together. Yeah. So in some ways, that's making a bit of an assumption, people have told me. And I went, yeah, but it's an intelligent assumption. Again, it's a bit different from stuff we'd have said before. We go to the customer to find stuff out. We have to lead with some kind of problem, some kind of idea and demonstration that we've done our homework on that. So question to ask yourself on this one is, do I know the right people to talk to? Am I arriving with insights and perspectives and stuff that they're going to find interesting to talk about, which isn't your products and services? But imagine if people start reaching out to you because they know when they talk to you, you help them make sense of stuff, because that's the way you think and that's how you can operate. So one of the things that we are now in a position to use to make our preparation, our research better than ever, faster than ever, is AI. It's something I would suggest you start to have a little look at, because of the power of this that we can use to have conversations with an artificial intelligence to give ourselves information, ourselves insight. It's massive. So a little model that I use, a little model that you can take away, is the rapid research model. Right? So rapid research model. And what you do with this is you think, okay, who am I selling to? Who's that kind of main person? Or the role that I'm trying to understand? And you go and ask ChatGPT. Yeah, I sell to sales directors. So I might say, what is the role of a sales director in a manufacturing organization? And it'll go, and give me some information. I'll go, okay, cool. I sort of knew that, but that's interesting. Hadn't really thought that. And I'll ask the next question, which is, what is the aim that the sales director would have? And again, it's now going to start through their objectives. I might use the word objectives, I might use goals. Depends what I'm feeling like. It's a conversation. You don't have to get too worried about funky prompts. You converse. Now we do something a bit cool, because we can ask the AI to be something. So we'll say, act as, or you are the sales director for a manufacturing organization. Tell me what pressures you are under on a day-to-day basis. And it's going to start to give us some pressures. And we're going to go, oh, hello. Interesting. I knew those and I thought that, but I didn't know that. And I can help with some of those things. Nice. Tell me, what are the impacts of those pressures on you, personally, professionally? So again, we can start to get some stuff here. At which stage I think, this is very cool. I know more about this person than I ever thought I did. Yeah. And then what we might do just at the end is to say, okay, so what are the dreams? What are the desires? What would they like to achieve? We use it to have this conversation. Even if you think you know your avatar, you know your customers pretty well, it's quite insightful when you run this. And things might pop up and you might say, oh, tell me more about that. So the AI had conversation with it, pretty useful. Apply your human brain to it, because sometimes AI can hallucinate a little bit. It has to give you an answer. That's its thing. So if it doesn't know it, it's like a rubbish salesperson. It just tells you what it wants. But normally you'll be able to look at it and go, okay, yeah, you've given me some decent insight here. And I can take this and I can weave it into some of the conversations I'm going to. That's another way we can use it. Because we're going to take this stuff and we're going to go into a conversation. We'll have the right conversation. So we leverage this information in. We take the insight into that hypothesis, the interesting information, the perspective that we've now got. We shine a light on something, not our product, not our service. We shine this light so we can start the conversation around something that's interesting to them. And we'll ask questions. Questions have always been the salesperson's friend. And we'll use our open questions, closed questions, summary questions, probing questions, hypothetical questions, so many different ways in which we can ask questions. And listen. Shut up, listen to what people say, let them talk, asking all those questions. So to do this, often it's the discipline that people are lacking in having a structure for a meeting, which allows them to step through the means of doing that in a way which makes sure we ask before tell. That's for me the basics of sales, ask before tell. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. So we use a meeting structure to help us with that. I like AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. It's from the 50s, but it works. It's a decent process. It mirrors a cognitive process, which is why it works so well. And we can set ourselves up to have a call, phone call, video call, face-to-face in a way which helps us keep control and get the most out of it. So, I mean, really, the question to ask yourself is that, do people value interaction with you? Are you doing something that is helping them think? And they're thinking, this is awesome. I like meeting this person because I always go away having learned something. And it's not something they could have learned by looking online. It's because you've stimulated that conversation. You've shared a little bit of stuff and we're working on things together. I mean, imagine the best thing you can hear is, as you're finishing, someone say, thank you. That was an excellent meeting. Probably not because you presented a load of stuff. More than likely because you've questioned a load of stuff and they've started to think. Now, I would love to tell you that Koenigsegg was a client. That would be very cool. They're not, but Mahler Powertrain are. And Mahler Powertrain is a consulting arm of Mahler, which help manufacturers get more power and less emissions out of their production engines. And they're working with people like Koenigsegg. But they were working with Koenigsegg when I was doing some sales training. A couple of guys were going over to Sweden to do a trip. I said, look, in the meeting, remember, go in, ask questions. They said, oh, no, we've got a presentation for them. I said, no, do not take a presentation. Use the stuff that we've been talking about. And they were a little bit uncomfortable. I said, come on, go with it. This is the time to implement this and apply it because you will see the difference it makes. I was there the next week. They came back with, Fred, the meeting was so cool. We asked questions and they were telling us stuff and they were giving us so much information and we were getting on with them. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. They said, no, but wait, the boss came past. I said, what do you mean the boss? Christian van Koenigsegg, the boss, the owner. And he put his head in, the way owners do, and said, oh, what's going on here? Well, I'll sit down 15 minutes. Said he was there 2 hours later, telling them all about the thoughts he got for the business, stuff he was trying to do, sharing stuff. And I said at the same time, thinking what a brilliant set of engineers Mahler were. He said, but we never told him anything. I said, no, but he will still think you're brilliant because you were interested in him. That was the point. You were bothered. So really, the way in which we can run meetings can have such an impact on people's perception of us, as well as helping us get the information and helping people start to make sense of stuff. Yeah, we're human beings at the end of the day. That's why it works. And so what we can then do is we can then start to present our solutions. We can start to underpin that. We can start to give proposals, a written offer, which in the past salespeople have been notoriously bad for. They just don't like doing it. We like going out talking to people, sitting down, desk work, the actor. No, it's an important part. It's a sales tool. There's some really cool modern ways of doing this. A digital sales room. It's a way in which you would produce the material that you would stick into a PDF, but you'd have it kind of on a web page, for want of a better way of describing it, that you can then send a link to. It's got more dynamic stuff in it. There can be a video, there can be downloads, there can be graphics, and it can be shared amongst people. It's very cool stuff. If I'm talking to anybody about selling our collaborative selling accelerator, this dynamic proposal, if you want to call it that, I use that. You might receive one of those from me at some stage. We still going to animate stuff. We, as the human being, are going to come in and we're going to do things. Yeah, presentations now, whether that's on a flip chart and kind of just making what we say interesting, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. They want to be able to see that you understand what it is that they're trying to do and you've put together these solutions. And so I find the structures of presentations usually pretty bad, and that's where we can make pretty decent improvements. Yeah. And telling stories. And we love stories. People remember stories. People connect with stories. We connect emotionally, and we're going to remember them more likely. And that's a whole subject in itself. But the secret of this is to make the customer the hero of the story, not you. They're at the center of it. That's how you should frame the information that you're going to be sharing. But I think so. It's a whole thing in itself. It's quite hot. Yeah. So question for yourselves: are your proposals and presentations solid? I mean, are they customer focused? Are they about them? And are you using funky ways to get that message across? Imagine being so confident in what you're communicating, you don't care what competitors are doing because you're all over doing this in a good way. So again, another little story. I can see why we're telling stories now. I work with a company in France that sell chicken nuggets to McDonald's, as they call them there. And there's big company based over in Brazil. And they had this presentation which talked about all the heads of cattle that they've got in Brazil and how many acres of ranch and all this sort of stuff. And I looked at this and I said, guys, aren't you trying to sell chicken to McDonald's in France? Why are you telling them all this stuff? Oh, because that's what marketing wants to do. Right, it's irrelevant. Why would a French McDonald's buyer care about any of this? You've got to get rid of this. You've got to make it about them. And we had a bit of a fight, in a nice way. But ultimately, they changed it around. They presented it, and they came back and said, "Oh, Fred, the buyers loved it. We've got so much more out of it. The whole thing has moved forward so much quicker." And yes, it will, because it's about them. Customer focus creates the dialogue and will impress them way more than all the stuff that you want to say about yourself that you think people are bothered about. So we move into evolve. Evolve is the last element of the value framework. So this is all about taking business to the next level. So it's about delivering on our promises, delivering on outcomes. And ultimately, that's what we're selling. We're selling outcomes. We're selling results. So making sure that what we promised, we are delivering on. So to do this, we might do some reviews. Now, I wind people up quite a lot when I say QBRs, quarterly business reviews, are a waste of time. No, QVR, quarterly value review. Are you getting value from working with us? What are you getting value from? What can we do better? Involve senior people. Have those kind of discussions to show how serious we are taking them getting their outcomes. And we then use this to build the relationships. And so for me, relationship building, again, we have a contact plan. There's a way in which we can reach out to people and keep giving them information in different forms to make sure we're not out of sight, out of mind. A very deliberate part of selling ongoing into a long-term relationship. The question to ask yourself, do you leave customers spend for themselves, or are you invested in their result? Or do you want them to get what it is you're promising? But just imagine when you're doing these reviews, the results, take for it, you're going to do what you said. Yeah. And you naturally move into the next project. Get another little story. One of the customers I work with is my namesake, as it happens, Brindisa. Brindis is my company. It's to do with Spanish for toast. And these guys import Spanish food. I don't have a favorite customer. I do have a favorite customer lunch. It's with these guys. Awesome stuff. But these are brilliant to the way they follow up and look at customer outcomes. They'll work with people. They'll recommend ingredients to menus in these top class restaurants, delis, and the sort of thing where they're talking about the products that will sell. But then when they go back, they've got this interest in, has it worked? How could we tweak it? What other products have we got that might be better? They're really so very close to their customers, and their customer success is their success. That's how they think. And I think that's a very healthy way to go about stuff. So look, I've gone through a lot of stuff, I know, but has this been helpful for you? Who is going to apply the thinking? What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the outcomes that we use on our training program. Okay, I'm going to take you through these one by one. I'm going to go fast, but use them as your checklist in how you're going to apply them. Yeah, so we break stuff into modules. Yeah, so one of the modules we start with is collaboration, which is understanding what does that look like? How do we think like a partner? What can we do to make sure that the way we think is conducive to the way to be successful today? That's the starting point. So get your head around what your mindset is around modern selling. We then think about validation. So this is about the profiling accounts, spending time understanding what the value prop is, thinking about how you're going to prospect. So you're going to email, you're going to use video, you're going to phoning, and how might that then play out into your social media. I talked about the account plan, objectives, DMUs, SWOTs, competitive landscape, your actions, building out the value proposition to make it more specific to customers with market change drivers, and making sure that you are considered the person people want to speak to. About leverage. So again, using structure in those meetings, the questioning skills, the insights. And if we're going to sell virtually, which we're doing more and more, making sure we're doing a good job with that. Think about it. Underpin. So I talked about proposals. I talked about those funky ways of sharing information. When you're doing presentations, are your visual aids helping you or are they distracting? Stories, customers the hero. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, big showstoppers in sales. We need to do things to make sure we take those away. Objection handling, to use an old-fashioned term. And then understanding principles of negotiation. I didn't really touch on that today, but making sure we prepare for that. Mutually beneficial outcomes is what we talked about anyway. So making sure variables are useful, that contact plan, and then quarterly value reviews. End of the day, it's all about getting a steep learning curve. I always find it interesting when people say, oh, a bit of a steep learning curve, as though it's like a bad thing. Oh, it's a good thing. It means that you get to competence faster and smoother. Surely that's what you want. And that's why we run the training in the way that we do. 12-week accelerator or 6-week sprint, very deliberate to help people apply stuff. So I want you to get a steep learning curve off the back of this. Take this stuff and use it. I am on a bit of a crusade for getting collaborative selling talked about more people operating in this way, thinking like a partner, doing a better job by aligning themselves with their customers.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.